Hey neighbor, welcome back to Throwback Week right here on ARTV. My name is John and it's time for a look at a classic record released in 1977. It's the fifth studio album, The Stranger, by the singer-songwriter, piano man extraordinaire himself, Billy Joel. Thank you to my patron Andrew that requested this album. It's exciting to get to take a look at an album that I wanted to talk about, at least some full-length album from Billy Joel, because I grew up with his music, but more so in like the greatest hits form. Billy Joel long ago cemented his position as a legendary musician. I mean, there's more iconic songs than you can name on two sets of hands, and a whole lot of personality fanning those flames. I grew up listening to the sounds of his greatest hits compilations thanks to my parents being fans of the Piano Man, so whether it was Movin' Out or my childhood favorite Uptown Girl, it's nice to see that I was exposed to some certified classics even back then. The Stranger originally released in 1977 and is widely considered to be one of, if not his overall best and most complete album, yet I'd never heard it in full until a few months before I made this review. His album that came out before this in 1976, Turnstiles, kind of bombed on the charts, so he had a lot riding on this album's success. Listening to a classic album that some people have had in their lives for decades is always a bit of an exhausting, daunting task, but let it serve as a reminder that it's never too late to start exploring older records. This is a diamond certified record with more than 10 million copies sold. It's a bit of a daunting task to dive into an album with so many expectations of what it could be, yet somehow this hit me as feeling fresh, intuitive, and well composed all around. It's musically intoxicating and impossible to not at the very least have some fun with. It's chock full of glimmering melodies, but also shadows of darkness that creep in from the corners that I can really appreciate. Beyond the lore of smash hits Only the Good Die Young and the original Just the Way You Are, Step Aside Bruno Mars, what do we get on The Stranger? Is romantic a good word to describe this album? Maybe, maybe not, but I'm rolling with it. The Stranger feels charming and romantic, splicing together various viewpoints in life and framing it from an outsider's point of view. He toured the world leading up to this release, which probably played a large role in this New Yorker sounding like such a well-versed traveler, one that's in touch with a lot of unique sounds. Billy Joel's most popular non-compilation studio album consistently wowed me with its beautiful, well-rounded musicianship that harnessed everything from well-oiled bass lines to trumpeting and a whole lot more. Of course, we've got plenty of great piano parts too, but that's kind of a given, right? What's also become much more clear to me is just how much his voice stands out from the pack. I mean, I grew up watching Oliver and Company, okay? I knew his voice from a very young age, yet as I dug deeper into his discography, I can now easily see why he's considered an icon. Whether it's the western-leaning funk of the title track or the endearing ode of dedication, She's Always a Woman, this classic album never fails to keep the tempo changing from track to track, yet it also manages to feel connected as an entire body of work, which is pretty impressive when you look back at the ground that it actually covers. The Stranger is a very complete feeling album that can be enjoyed in order, shuffled, or separated entirely just by listening to a few tracks here and there. That's the beauty of the stride that Joel hit at this point in his career. The hits were already feeling timeless, and the decades gone by have only further cemented that legacy. Some consider this a not so important factor, especially for older releases that are looked at as classics, but I'm actually really impressed with how well the mix holds up for this batch of tunes. You consistently hear a lively bass popping in the track, plenty of warm vibrato on those vocals and harmonies, well-timed segues into outside instrumentation such as the brass sections or even the piano. It's just all really impressive for its time. Look, I don't think Billy Joel is from the Stone Age or anything. I know there was plenty of technology back in the 70s and I'm sure it's been remastered for modern listeners, but even still, the blueprint for the sound it achieves has to have been there in order for the remaster to work, and this album's engineers clearly laid that down. At the end of the day, The Stranger is simply fun to listen to in a variety of different settings. There's a shit ton of quotable lines lining the record too, so let's move on over to the tracklist breakdown to remind ourselves of that magic that still lingers in the air to this day. Movin' Out, Anthony's song, opens up The Stranger with a smashing good time and those classic stuttered vocals that were pretty uncommon for that time in music, at least ones that sounded great like these. The bass line sails like a beautiful day on the lake as Joel conjures up enough snark and attitude to fill a volcano, while the backing band ties it all together with a smooth sound that almost has a bit of a swing to it. Stranger, Stranger, that's quite a title track you've got there. I'll listen to it at a high replay count as Joel moves past the whistled Western introductions for more of an in the shadows type approach. Todd knows what I mean. Just the way you are speaks for itself, I feel. I mean, at least at this point it does. I don't think there's a ton that I can add outside of the fact that it's probably one of the greatest love ballads of all time. You gotta love that sax on the hook too. I mean, that is perfection. 3 songs come together to make one long epic on scenes from an Italian restaurant, and I love it when an artist makes that happen. Multi-part songs done well rule, end of discussion. He gives listeners the feeling of watching a man perform at a bar, singing but observing everything around him and bringing you into that world as well. The changes in tempo feel really natural, and the way his band brings such a swift movement without making you seasick is worthy of praise in and of itself. Next up is Vienna, which outside some of the singles probably tops out as my favorite on the LP. You can get what you want, or you can just get old. Damn, that line hits hard. Only the good die young. Man, that is the anthem right there. The centers are more fun, so get out and dance. Live life, let it go. This track has already crossed over to several new generations, and it will continue to find its place in the world. It's a brazen good time that's certainly overplayed, but not necessarily overexposed. The floating melodies of She's Always a Woman hit the cue next, discussing the highs and lows of a relationship, yet not wanting to change anything at the end of the day. Of course, this relationship being written about has long since ended, but the message remains true. Love each other for who you are, not who you want someone to be. It also doesn't hurt that the gentle guitars and pianos are among the most calming that I've ever heard, plus whoever decided to add the flute to the track might just be a genius. Get it right the first time keeps a great sense of raw energy flowing, bringing back a higher tempo before leading into the inspiring Everybody Has a Dream, which can drag on ever so slightly, especially with repeated listens, but after such a great record, what's a minor speed bump anyways? The song is still fun, it's just a little bit drawn out at the end there. Billy Joel's 1977 record The Stranger has earned the title of classic for good reason. It's expertly performed, smoothly written with the sense of heart and ambition, and it's super well produced to top it all off. I'm giving The Stranger a perfect score, that's right, a certified 5 out of 5, and I'd love to know what everyone else thinks about the record as well. Whether you're new to it like me, or maybe you've had it in your life since the 70s, let me know in the comments section down below, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this throwback review today. Thank you again to my patron Andrew that requested this and made this review possible. If you want to see the entire throwback review playlist, then tap this card here, or tap here for another recent video on the channel. All of my social media accounts, including my Patreon if you want to get a request in the future, can be found in the description, and I will see you soon for more right here on ARTV.